That's a detail of the mill and the dam, the detail of the brewery and the church, and the whole painting. I think that one of the things that art can do that digital models have a more difficult time doing is art can convey an atmosphere. Art can convey a feeling. And I find that when you talk about history, you have to make it entertaining first. If you can entertain, you can teach them something. If you bore them, you lose them. And so the point of all of that imagery is to engage a viewer. Now, we get to the very specific project. I started thinking about Van Curler and thinking about his bark and thinking, I know what I want to do. I want to get that bark down to New York. I want to get it to Manhattan. I want to get a sense of what Manhattan was in 1660 when Van Curler was going out. So that was when I started visiting Charlie on a regular basis, Charlie Gehring over at the New York State Library, and using the vast resource of materials that Charlie has there. To take a look at the Costello plan, to take a look at Manhattan and try to figure out how I would picture it. And it's right around this time that Courtney called. So Courtney was sort of coming into the project just as I was getting started. One of the things about the Costello plan is that it's not a plan. It's isometric. If you look at it carefully, you can see that you're looking at building facades. You're looking at the entire tip of Manhattan, slightly rotated. The problem that I found when I started to take a look at what planners, architects, and artists have done with the Costello plan is that they've taken it literally as a street plan, which you can't do. So how do we relate the Costello plan to reality? That became the first phase of the project. What I started looking at, and I found this in Stokes iconography, is this is an early, technically accurate survey of the tip of Manhattan. This was done around 1890, 1900. And the reason why I wanted to be early is because I thought somewhere hidden in these streets there may be the shadow of that Dutch colony. But it had to be late enough that it would be surveyed accurately so that you could take this plan and lay it on modern Manhattan and it would work. So I took that plan, which was incredible because it included not just a scale, but it gave me the physical dimensions of some of the key properties. And I did an overlay. This slide sort of washed out the background. But this is a tracing of the streets on that survey. Now, unfortunately, because of the way the projector is working, we're going to lose this. But I took the same overlay and put it on top of the Costello plan. And on the Costello plan, you could see that this is the actual track of the canal that was built here. On the Costello plan, it arcs much higher up into the city. But there's enough of the remaining data from these blocks to be able to see how it does relate. The fort was another problem. The fort on the Costello plan is way out of scale. So you can see that. If you look at the cannons that are depicted here, and you look at the size of the houses, you can see just how out of scale that is. So I had a layout for the streets. I had a sense of how the buildings fit, but not how the fort was. So I went back through the material that's in Stokes. I had this plan of the fort in New York for a while, but I was really disappointed that in Stokes it's not the whole map, so it doesn't have any scale. But there was this document, and this document is really interesting. It's a series of drawings that were done by the British. The drawing that you see here in the center is not just the fort, the footprint of the fort, but it gives us the data, it gives us the dimensions. 132 feet 5 inches. This is the footprint of the Dutch fort. And if you orient that the same as the Castello fort. You can see the entrance here, you can see the entrance here, but you can also see that the original Dutch barracks building, which you can see on the Castello plan, is still there in the English period. So we have the physical footprint plan of that building. So where does it go from here? What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch programs.
Again, I think what we're going to try to do here with Len is to show how these digital models that Len has already produced to a certain degree sits on top of the GIS platform. Merging these two ideas and concepts will allow an artist who uses digital methods to, before he starts to paint, he actually creates a digital model. Once I saw that, I said, gee, that's what we're looking for. And talked to George, and he said, I think have Len send me one of those digital models for any house, any block, whatever. Let's make sure that object file will fit into the system.
So these things do coordinate. This is, if you remember, this is the overlay that we were just looking at. The Castello plan. This Castello plan will fit on modern day Manhattan. This fort is the right size. So in this model, I plotted the fort, I plotted the windmill, and I plotted some of the houses. And just like the model that I was showing you of Schenectady, we now have a model of Manhattan that we can really start to look at. We can get into the streets. We can see the fort. We can see the barracks in the fort. We can see the windmill. You can see the lay of the land. And you can pull back from this thing, and we can get the experience of 17th century Manhattan from any angle, any place within the city that we choose, which is, you can see how this would work with George's program, where you start to really develop this thing into a virtual experience for someone to investigate the city. Now, the program that I have here of that. This is a more developed, the model more fully developed. More buildings, the Strand area, Pearl Street. Looking back, you can see in the background here the windmill, an overview, some of the density sort of taking shape. This is rendered in a different program, but you start to get a sense of the texture of it. And back to this view, I found this view to be really exciting and one that was just too much to resist. So this is my first painting of colonial Dutch Manhattan based on that model. Now, since the last time I presented this material down here, which was about a month ago or so,
yes,
or maybe a couple of months ago, I finished my second painting. My second painting I wanted to do from the Hudson River because of Van Curler and that bark and what that bark might have experienced. He's come all the way down the Hudson River and he's about to round the tip of Manhattan. So this is a view from the Hudson River. You can see there's the